Hey everybody, Jeff Stone here with day 79 of the year 2015 at magicreview.com. Zero by Juan Esteban Varela, something like that. Man, this was hard to review. First, I chose it, A, because it was requested by a loyal reader, and B, because I thought it was a short DVD that I'd have time to do today, which was a very busy day for me. And I knew it was going to be busy, so I thought I'll do a short video that I have time to watch. And then tonight, late, like around 7:30 or 8 o'clock, I opened it up to watch it and discovered it's 2 DVDs. Oh, and it's a lot of stuff. So 3 or 4 hours later or something like that, I don't even know. My head's ready to explode, and I just need a break. And it's past my bedtime now that I have one. Anyway, so here's the deal. The concept on here is awesome, all right? The whole point of this whole idea is literally no props. I mean, not even a pen and a paper, not a deck of cards, not a coin, not even borrowed props. I mean, literally zero props. All stuff done completely with words and your audience members. And again, not your audience members' money or pencils or anything. In fact, he designed a good portion of his show for blind people, and the entire show is done with sighted people and blind people in a room that's pitch black. And so that's what I'm talking. I mean, you literally have no props at all. You can do it naked. You can do it in the dark. You could do it at a nudist colony. You could do it in the Matrix Construct program before they load anything. You could do it anywhere, anytime. So conceptually, that's a great idea. You'll never ever be at a point where somebody says, hey, show me a trick, and you start patting down your pockets looking for something and go, oh, I didn't bring anything or whatever. You'll never have that happen again if you learn and master, and I do mean master, this concept. So let me give you a sample of some of the kinds of effects you'll do. He does an effect where, and I might butcher these a little bit just because it's a little bit, I got so much stuff swimming around in my head right now about all those different things on there, but to give you an idea. One of them, this is an easy one that you'll be able to learn very easily. In fact, Woody Aragon had this same almost identical trick in his Woody Land DVD set, and it's the one with the ring, where you imagine that you're wearing a ring on one finger, and then you move it to some number of fingers, and then when you're done, you're able to predict which finger the ring ended up on. So now I've seen that 3 different times now. I've seen Mark Elsden's got a version of that, Woody Aragon's got a version of that, and now Juan Esteban Varela has a version of that. And so that's one example of the kind of thing we're talking about. There's no props. I mean, you just use your body. They don't even have to have an actual ring. They just pretend that they're wearing a ring. So that's one. That's probably the simplest one on the DVD. Then there's stuff like you've got 3 spectators up on stage, and you go through the pantomime of shuffling an invisible deck and all this stuff, and then you start showing, and you're literally holding nothing, and you're showing apparently cards to the spectators, and you start saying to spectator 1, okay, here's the 4 of diamonds, here's the 9 of hearts, here's the 10 of clubs, here's the queen of spades, here's the this, here's the that. Have you memorized a card yet? And so the idea is that they're thinking of one of those cards you just named. Then you go to the next guy, do the same thing with more cards, and the next guy do the same thing with more cards. And then you're able to, using this Carol Fox idea of this sort of the, I don't know what it's called, but it's the cross index thing or something like that, where you are able to essentially recite the cards in a different order, and you know who, and you say, did you hear your card in that list? Did you hear your card in that list? And you're able to know which cards each spectator is thinking of. It's not as convoluted maybe as I made it sound. It is a little bit long-winded of a presentation. A lot of these presentations are long-winded because you're dealing with no props and you're having to explain everything. And so I mean, as far as effect goes, that bothers me a little bit, but that doesn't affect the rating because that may not bother you at all, and you might have the right personality to be able to put some power in that presentation. So I'm not too worried about that, even though some of them are a little convoluted as far as the presentation goes. But just as an example, to do that one I just mentioned, you have to memorize. I'm not going to show you it, but big old chart of stuff there that you get. It comes on the DVD. You can print it out, and it's a lot of memorization. You basically have to have mastered either mnemonica or Aronson or some other stack. He uses mnemonica, and so if you're going to convert to Aronson's stack, you're going to have to redo all of his charts. And so he uses mnemonica plus the memorization of I don't know, like 15 other cards in a specific order. You have to memorize all that, and you have to know it cold. I mean, you have to know it cold. You have to, if you're familiar with stacks, Aronson and mnemonica, it's almost like, you do a drill, right? If you know every card has a number, right? So if somebody names the number 32, you know what card that is in the stack. So the way you practice that is you have somebody sit and call numbers at you or use flashcards or whatever. This is the kind of thing where it's like you got to know the card before they say the number, okay? Now I'm exaggerating. Obviously, that's impossible. But you've got to be quick. So you have to know this inside and out, which again, I have no problem with that. I will never do it ever. And probably the majority of you watching will never do it ever because it is going to be a pain in the butt to learn. But that does not impact the star rating. Just because the method's hard doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean the product's bad. So I have no problem with that either. So there's other effects that kind of use combinations of like branching anagrams. You might remember Max Maven had an effect called Continental on the VideoMine series. And now he had a crib sheet that was on his pen that allowed him to do the branching anagram to figure out what country in Europe somebody was thinking of. Well, imagine that same effect, but you've got the branching anagram memorized. And imagine that he's got tons of different effects using that concept where you have all these branching anagrams memorized, or progressive anagrams. I always get the two confused. Or maybe they're the same thing. I hear that a lot too. Anyway, some form of anagram, right? So you have to memorize that. There's another effect where it's kind of a combination of a branch and a fishing thing. And again, you got to memorize a bunch of cards in a specific order. And so the idea is that you show somebody a bunch of cards, kind of like the invisible thing we did a minute ago. And again, they're invisible cards, and you name off all the cards. And then the presentation is that you have an affinity, a relationship with these cards, and they always speak the truth to you. But the moment a spectator's thinking of a card, it becomes her card, and it will lie to you. And so you start asking these questions, and the moment you get a no, then you know that the card lied to you, and you know exactly what the card is. You only need one no at any given time to get to their selected card. That may be confusing, but if you understand those types of methods of branching anagrams and the fishing and that kind of stuff, that probably made some sense to you. So that's the kind of methods you're dealing with here. Nothing that revolutionary, but the combination of some of this stuff that he's put together and some other theories and principles that he's thrown together in here, it's very, very smart stuff. It's very, very clever. But I'm going to need some water before I tell you the but coming. I might need a beer. I don't even drink beer. How's that sound on the microphone? Hear me swallowing my water. Whew, okay. So, a couple of problems, and they're big ones. Let me do an effect on you. Think of any country in Europe. Any country you want. All right? Now, think of the last letter of that country. Okay, got it? Now, let's travel to the Americas, the American continent. Talking north, south, central, whatever, all of it. Think of a country in the Americas that begins with that letter you're thinking of, that letter that was the last letter of your European country. Okay, I'm 99.99% sure that you're not thinking of Argentina. However, if I were to have done that effect to you in Spanish, you'd be thinking of Argentina right now. You'd have to be. Because every country in Europe, with the exception of one, the last letter of the name of the country is an A. And the one exception to that is Portugal. That's it. So, if you use that, the way he developed the technique, you're always going to end up with Argentina. And he has a way to deal with the Portugal thing that's clever and smart. But that doesn't work in English at all. Now, in his defense, he included it in sort of a little extra bonus kind of area and prefaced it by saying, this won't work in English, but I'm putting it on here so that you can see the principle in action, so that you can understand how it works, so you can understand how to apply it and how to look for those kinds of things. And it's this concept where I can't remember exactly what he called it, but the basic idea is that it's minimal options that appear to be a lot more options. It's that kind of a concept. So, there is another effect that also had a similar thing where it didn't quite work. I'm trying to just remember, looking at my notes here. Yeah, I know there was one more that was... yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, it seems like there's at least one more that was not in the bonus section that had the same problem where it didn't work in English. So there are some issues like that. The majority of the descriptions were extremely confusing. I mean, some of them to the point where I'm sitting here thinking, are they even speaking human, earthling? I mean, they were speaking Spanish with the voiceover guy, right? And the voiceover guy has got a thick accent. He's mispronouncing some of the words, which normally wouldn't matter that much. But in this case, where the stuff is so technical and so intricate, and it was very, very confusing. There was a couple of effects where after watching the video 2 or 3 times, I was like, I'm lost. I'm completely lost. So I pulled out these charts, started looking, there's 4 pages here, started looking at the charts, and I started getting some clarity on a couple of them, like the card ones. I finally kind of got my head wrapped around the concept there. But then here's this complicated thing here. I'm going to show it to you because it won't mean a thing to you. All right? This is very complicated, and you have to memorize that entire thing, and you have to go through this combination of fishing and branching and all this stuff, which again, I'm not opposed to having to do all this work. What I'm opposed to is that no matter how many times I watched that section of the video, I could not understand it. I just could not follow it. It was too confusing. I went through it too fast. Looking at this chart is not helping very much. So it's very difficult to understand. This one, it's a zodiac thing. And again, you have to memorize this chart. And you have to know it cold, which again, I don't have a problem with. But when he taught it, he taught something different from what's actually on this chart. And in fact, this is the other one that had the language problem. Now I remember that. Because what he did was he performed it in Spanish, and all the language things worked with the way the letters and everything work. But it was dubbed over in English. So we're seeing an English version of it that's being... I don't know how to explain this. It doesn't actually work in English, but they just sort of made it work, not in a dishonest way, but just to get it so that you could understand what he was doing in English. You could understand in English what he was doing in Spanish. But you can't actually do it with the English words. So they changed the way the branch works on here, which is different from the way it's on the DVD. There's that one that I just showed you here, this Mystery of the Wave, the one here. There's some mnemonics that you have to memorize, some little memory pegs, but you have to memorize the Spanish words for them, not the English words, because the Spanish words fit the what do you call it? Acronym? Is that acronym? Yeah, the acronym. So just my point is, in order to learn this stuff, you know, forget about how well it's taught. Just let's say it was taught perfectly. In order to learn it, you have to put in a lot of work. Fine, I'm totally cool with that. But because of the fact that you have to put in a lot of work says that it's not an easy thing. It's very complex, which again, I'm cool with. But when it's something that complex, you need good instruction to learn it. And that we just don't have. Now, if you speak Spanish natively or fluently and you can understand it, well, then this might be a different story. I mean, I can't speak to that because my Spanish is not enough to be able to follow that DVD. It's pretty technical stuff. But if you are naturally, or if your native tongue is Spanish, this might be a whole different experience for you, and it might be totally fine. It might be very easy to follow and learn. So even if I had a perfect memory and I could just look at these things and in 2 seconds memorize all these charts and master all the stuff that I need to memorize, what good is that if I don't understand how to use it? And that's where the DVD, I think, failed. I mean, there are some stuff that you can understand and you'll be able to do, assuming you're willing to put in the work. Then the DVD menu, oh my gosh, it was horrible. Everything had like 3 levels deep, and each level had like 5 or 6 items on it, and most of them didn't have a play all button, so it was like navigate down 3 levels deep and then find the one you want and play it, and then the video stops and it goes back to the menu and you got to look for the next one. Just a pain in the butt. And the way they were labeled, it was a little bit confusing about what you were actually watching. On the second DVD, they put in some weird stuff that I had no idea why was there. One was the thing that it was called Principles of How This Trick Works or whatever, and it's just a quick cut to the guy with the clackboard or whatever those things are called, you know, take one, whatever, and then him arguing off screen with Varela, but of course it's the voiceover guy arguing in English, and it was like a 30-second clip, and that was it. I don't know what that was about. And then there was this one with Varela singing this lullaby, and he sang it in Spanish, and then he said, now in English, and he sang it in English, and he said, now in this language, he sang in that language, and now in this language. And I'm looking at the clip, and it looks like it's like a 5-minute long clip, or 3 or 4 minutes, or something like that. So I'm like, is that all he does? So I skip forward, and he's still singing, and I hear him say, in this language. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I skip to the end, and he all the way through, like for 4 minutes, he sings his 15-second lullaby in like, it had to be like 30 different languages. That's impressive and talented, but why the heck was it on the DVD? I have no idea. So the concept is solid, and if you want to learn this concept and you're willing to put in the time, it can be done by getting this DVD set. But man, it's going to take some serious... I mean, I had to go back and forth to these charts, back to the DVD, watch the DVD sections multiple times, and I mean, it was so hard to learn. And I don't mean... it was so hard to learn what I'm supposed to learn. Does that make sense? I know that I can memorize these things if I put the time in, but how to apply them and how to work through them and how to use them is what I needed to learn on the DVD, and it just was so hard to do because of all the language barriers and all this stuff. Now, you might be able to do it, and you probably could if you put in all the extra work on top of the memorization, all the extra work to get through the videos. I've given you enough information to make a decision at this point. The ad copy is dead on, 100% accurate. It really is what they say it is. It's just a matter of how well did they deliver that to you and how well did they teach it to you. If I were speaking Spanish and doing this in Spanish, it'd be 4 stars. 4 stars, right? Maybe 4.5, 4.5. But as it is, if you speak English, 2.5 stars, stones to ass of grubble. Whew! Time to like the video, subscribe to my channel, listen to the random iTunes song of the moment, which is Firehouse Again. I Live My Life for You. It's a great band. And this is the acoustic version. Anyway, I'm running out of time. I'm afraid my iPhone's going to die on me. I'm going to run out of space. So real quick, I will tell you, I know who the winner of the comment contest for magicreview.com is, but I'm not telling until tomorrow. If you don't like that, you can call the military police. Yep. You know who I'm talking about. He does anyway. Tomorrow, day 80, Stand-Up Magic by Tom Wright. Tune in then for that. Thanks for watching this. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Peace out.